Mutant dinosaur experiment gone wrong. The lab disaster behind the Tyrannosaurus incident. The outbreak. The sirens screamed through the night, echoing off the concrete walls of the underground lab. Red lights flashed across the corridors as smoke poured from the shattered containment chamber. Inside, a massive shadow moved, slowly at first, then with terrifying speed. "It's gone! The Tyrannosaurus is out!" One of the scientists yelled, his voice trembling. The creature's skin shimmered, changing colors like a chameleon, blending perfectly into the walls. The team could only see its glowing yellow eyes moving closer. Dr. Harris raised his tranquilizer gun, hands shaking, whispering, "Dear God, what have we done?" Then, with a sudden roar, the mutated dinosaur lunged out of the darkness, and everything went black. It all began months earlier, in a quiet desert town in Nevada. Eneg Group had built a top-secret research facility, hidden from the public eye. To outsiders, it looked like a harmless biolab, but inside, scientists were working on something extraordinary, bringing dinosaurs back to life. Dr. Raymond Harris, a brilliant but reckless geneticist, led the project. His dream was to combine ancient dinosaur DNA with modern reptile genes to create a new species that could survive in today's environment. Many warned him it was dangerous, but Harris believed he was on the edge of rewriting evolution. At first, everything seemed under control. The team successfully created several small reptile dinosaur hybrids that stayed harmless in their enclosures. But one day, a visiting biologist accidentally spilled venom from an Azimiops fee viper, a rare, deadly snake, into one of the DNA samples. The contamination went unnoticed. That same week, the experiment using that sample produced a creature unlike anything the world had ever seen. It was smarter, faster, and could change its skin color to match its surroundings. Harris called it Specimen 09. Though some whispered it looked like a young Tyrannosaurus. When the creature started growing at an impossible rate, the team grew nervous. It could mimic sounds and respond to voices. One night, it broke free of its enclosure and wandered into the hallway. The surveillance footage showed it vanish, literally vanish, into the walls, using its chameleon-like ability. Security teams were called, alarms blared, and everyone rushed to find it. But Specimen 09 found them first. Dr. Harris ordered an emergency lockdown, sealing off all exits. The lights flickered, then went out completely. In the darkness, faint footsteps echoed. The sound of heavy breathing grew closer. Then came a scream. One of the guards was pulled into the shadows. Blood splattered across the control panels. Panic spread through the lab as everyone realized they were trapped inside with the monster they had created. "Keep quiet," Harris whispered. "It hunts by sound." But it was too late. A crash came from behind the steel door. Metal twisted and bent. Something huge was forcing its way in. The last thing they heard before the power went out completely was the creature's deep, growling breath, and then the unmistakable click of the main gate unlocking itself. The hunt. The metal gate screeched open, and a blast of cold air rushed through the corridor. The backup lights flickered weakly, casting red shadows across the shattered lab. "Run!" Dr. Harris shouted, pulling a young technician named Emily by the arm. Behind them, the mutated dinosaur, now fully grown, stepped into the light for the first time. Its body shimmered like oil, scales shifting from green to black to a ghostly silver. Every few seconds, it faded into invisibility, only to reappear closer. It was hunting them. Slowly, deliberately, the team scattered through the maze of hallways, their footsteps echoing through the underground facility. In the control room, a senior engineer named Mark tried to reboot the power grid. "If I can restore the security system, we can lock it in Section 4, he said, frantically typing commands into the console. Sparks flew. "Come on, come on." Suddenly, the monitor blinked, and a massive reptilian eye appeared on the security feed. It was staring directly into the camera. Then, the feed went black. Meanwhile, Harris and Emily reached the specimen room, now filled with overturned equipment and shattered glass. "We can't fight it," Emily said, trembling. "We have to get out." Harris shook his head. "If this thing escapes to the surface, it's over. The world isn't ready for this." He grabbed a syringe filled with a neon blue liquid, an experimental serum meant to paralyze the hybrid's nerve system. "We stop it here." Far down the hall, a loud crash shook the floor. The creature was smashing through reinforced doors like paper. Mark's voice crackled through the intercom. "It's heading your way! I can reroute power to the containment bay. Maybe we can trap it there." Harris nodded. "Do it!" He and Emily sprinted toward the containment area, the creature's growls echoing behind them. The lights above them flickered violently, and the collapse. The explosion shook the entire underground facility. Pipes burst from the ceiling, spraying steam and debris everywhere. The emergency lights flickered weakly, painting the chaos in pulses of red. Emily coughed as smoke filled the containment bay. "Dr. Harris!" she shouted, trying to see through the haze. His silhouette lay motionless a few feet away. She crawled toward him, blood trickling down her forehead. "Please, wake up!" Harris groaned and rolled over, clutching his ribs. "It didn't die," he whispered. "The serum, it adapted." Emily froze. From somewhere beyond the fire, heavy footsteps echoed again, slow, powerful, deliberate. The creature was still alive. Worse, it was stronger. The blue serum had fused with its bloodstream, giving its skin a strange electric glow. Every few seconds, sparks danced across its body like lightning crawling under its scales. "Move!" Harris shouted, grabbing Emily's hand. They dashed through a side door into the biostorage wing. The corridor stretched endlessly, filled with glass tanks containing half-formed creatures, failed experiments sealed in green fluid. Their distorted shapes pressed against the glass, as the heat from the explosion caused the tanks to crack. A few shattered open, spilling thick fluid onto the floor. "They were experimenting on everything," Emily muttered in horror. "Snakes, lizards, birds, even mammals." A deep growl rumbled behind them. The hybrid was following their scent. The sprinklers came on, filling the air with mist. Every shadow looked alive. "This way!" Harris pointed toward a stairwell leading to the surface. They raced up the stairs as metal groaned below them. Suddenly, the stairwell shook violently, and a giant claw slammed through the wall, missing Emily by inches. Screaming, she stumbled backward. Harris grabbed her just in time, pulling her through the door at the top. Emily yanked the brake lever, and the elevator plunged downward. The last thing she saw before the door sealed shut was Harris disappearing in a burst of blinding blue light. The elevator roared downward through the dark shaft, smoke pouring from its sides. Emily collapsed against the wall, trembling, tears streaming down her face. The last of the power flickered out, and the lift came to a crashing halt somewhere below ground. Silence. Then, faintly, from above, came the sound of claws scraping down the metal shaft. The aftermath. The elevator doors were bent and smoking, and Emily lay still on the cold floor, her hands trembling. The air was thick with dust and the smell of burnt metal. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, a faint scratching sound echoed from above. It grew louder, closer, faster. Her heart pounded as she realized the creature was coming down the shaft. Slowly, she pushed the emergency hatch open and crawled out into a dim underground corridor she didn't recognize. Emergency lights flickered weakly, revealing cracked walls covered in warning signs. Biohazard. Do not enter. She limped forward, her footsteps echoing. "Dr. Harris," she whispered, hoping somehow he had survived. But there was no answer. In the distance, she heard the low hum of generators, backup systems still running somewhere deeper in the facility. Emily followed the sound, desperate for any sign of escape. As she turned a corner, she found herself in a massive storage chamber filled with metal crates labeled Gene Fusion Project. Level 9. Clearance. One of the crates was torn open from the inside. Deep claw marks covered its surface. Her stomach dropped. There wasn't just one creature. A loud crash behind her made her spin around. A vent cover fell from the ceiling, clattering to the floor. Then, from the shadows above, two glowing eyes appeared. Emily froze. The hybrid. The Ingma. Emily hesitated, lowering the rod slightly. Because you're dangerous. You'll kill everyone if you get out. The hybrid's eyes flickered, its voice deep and trembling. You already killed me once. Before she could respond, the creature's body began to convulse violently. The blue veins under its skin flared like lightning, and the ground started to shake. The temperature dropped so fast that ice began forming on the walls. The alarms blared again. Cryosystem malfunction detected. Temperature drop critical. Emily stumbled as frost spread across the floor. She realized the serum's chemical reaction was triggering a chain explosion in the cryogenic storage nearby. No! She screamed, backing away. The creature roared in pain, its body cracking like glass as the ice grew thicker around it. Help me! It whispered before collapsing onto the ground. Emily ran for the half-open door, forcing it wide enough to squeeze through. Behind her, the storage chamber exploded in a wave of blinding blue light. The shockwave threw her down a narrow tunnel that led upward toward the surface. She crawled through the debris, lungs burning, until she saw daylight, a thin golden beam cutting through the dust. She dragged herself out of the tunnel, collapsing onto the desert sand as helicopters circled above. Soldiers in hazmat suits rushed toward her. "We've got a survivor!" one of them shouted. Emily tried to speak but could only whisper, "It's not dead." The soldier frowned. "What?" Before she could answer, a deep rumble shook the ground. The desert sand behind the facility began to rise. Something massive was moving beneath it. The soldiers froze, weapons drawn, as a crack split the earth open. From the darkness below, two glowing eyes appeared once more. The Eneg Group facility was sealed forever, buried beneath the Nevada desert. Officials claimed the creature was destroyed. Locals still report strange tremors at night and flashes of blue light beneath the sand. Emily vanished soon after the incident, her name erased from all official records. Some say she's still out there, trying to make sure the world never repeats the same mistake. But deep below, something still breathes. If you want to uncover more hidden experiments and unsolved mysteries, subscribe to this channel.